Okay, cool. So I guess we will start with Instagram. And this is actually a little bit of an update for you too, Kay. So we have one more volunteer in the Instagram team that is active. We have both Twan and then we have Henry, and they've agreed to start posting the YouTube content. And so they'll start doing that, I think, next week with this. So
Is that Henry
they've,
Gepper?
yes, yeah,
Oh, fantastic. Henry's wonderful.
yes, they are. And they were telling me, I think what'll probably work, and this was just an idea that I had this morning too, but I think it'll probably work best if we do what we have been doing. So what we've done before is Twan is like in charge of one specific program on Instagram, and that's the Meet Our Members post, and that happens every Friday. And so she just does the post on Fridays and has access to all of those things in that drive. And then she also does little supplementary things while she's there when she has the time. And so that's essentially what Henry will be doing, but with YouTube posts. Other than that, I don't know if I'm correct in saying this, Kay, so please correct me if I'm not. I don't know if we've got much volunteer engagement in this group.
Yeah, that's my experience as well. And I'm excited to hear about Henry taking over the YouTube posts and Huang doing the Meet Our Members. That's very exciting.
I don't know if Henry has communicated this to you, but they were the former social media person for Mapsy before Katie Garth took over.
We are so lucky to have them. That is amazing.
Yeah. Yay. Yeah. Henry had originally reached out to me to do that position, but I had turned it down at the time.
Yeah, they let me know about that, and I was really like,
yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. So we have those two people. I think probably the areas where we would need more help would be maybe in like the stories. And then Kay and I have kind of like scheduled out the way that takeovers work. So Kay handles, oh wait, I might be remembering this wrong. I think I handle the first part of the month and then Kay handles the second part of the month. So however that gets divided up. And it's negotiable, but we both are handling the takeovers because that involves so much more communication and back and forth with an individual. And then, so I know the stories, it would be nice to have a little bit of help there, but I don't know if there's anything else. What do you think, Kay?
Yeah, I think that about covers it. Anytime that I have time, which is just a few times a week, like early in the morning, I'll just scroll through our followers for like an hour and I'll just post like whatever I see. And so I think on Friday, like I saw several things and posted them, but I feel bad because I can't do it every single day and I just do it when I can. So there's some days where it's like lots of story content and then we're like featuring our members and it's like really exciting and there's lots of like dialogue happening in the messages, and then other days it's a little more quiet and it just is how it is at this moment. So I guess if we could, work on, I don't know if we do it by day or something like that. If we get like one more member or volunteer on board, maybe two more, and then each of us takes a day or something, that might be kind of helpful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've tried to do the same thing, essentially just like, I think what we have in our Instagram guidelines is at least one post per day from a member. So I've been trying to at least hit the minimum. But that's also like when I remember or when I have time. So I think that's a really good idea, Kay.
Do y'all have like specific days that y'all are doing this on? Like Becky, do you have like a day that you're doing it and then Kay like a day you do it?
Not yet, but I think that was kind of what Kay was suggesting, that we would have maybe one or two more members, one or two more volunteers, and then we could allot days of the week to make it a little bit less, not burdensome, but a little bit less higgledy-piggledy.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like being on, like I feel like on a Friday when I wake up in the morning, like consistently I've been able to do pretty much Fridays. But other people might have that like open availability on Monday morning or Tuesday morning or something. So
Yeah. I wouldn't mind, like, if I could do, because I have a little more free time on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, but also like, and then the weekends as well. So like, I wouldn't, if it's just like we need like one a day, like I would be down to do like one day where I just like log in and then like find something, post, and then like that seems like something that would be like doable for me if we just want to kind of continue that frequency, that daily frequency.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I do think before we have any commitment, maybe we go through all of the tasks and then talk about like what is most feasible to like delegate to more volunteers, and then what's more like, oh, that might be more of us doing it. Because I think this might be something that's a little bit easier to delegate to volunteers just because people are always on Instagram,
Right.
which, always. But I'm also a little bit like, there might also be some issues with people forgetting their day or something like that. And then we might say, okay, let's take that back. And, but I'd like to use you as like the, no, I don't
A
like the
backup.
phrase. Yeah, the ultimate, So I think that's probably maybe what we'll do with that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that offer though. I think
Yeah, we're all already so busy too. So
yeah, and things might get more busy in the future as well, depending on if there's any like new shows or like at the end of this we have that one event that we're planning, so which we haven't fleshed any of the details out about, but okay, then we've got, I think that's it for volunteer status, unless you can think of anything else. Okay.
nope, I'm good, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So then the next thing we have, sorry, the next thing we have is our open calls. So with Meet Our Members, I took a look at that. I think we need to start pushing this or like posting every other Friday. We're running out of members. So the last person we posted this past Friday is the last person we have. And then I wanted to check and see, I think Ruben volunteered to put that on the Welcome to the Guild email last meeting. Has it been added?
I don't remember if I did or not because of everything else that was kind of going on in the last couple of weeks. And that may have been the one thing that slipped. Let me look really quickly right now. And actually on this new computer, I need to like log into RIPG Guild. So
yeah, because it's
I don't
new.
think so though.
Okay.
I don't think I got it on there. Have we had some new members?
Yeah, there I think are like 3 or 4, but I don't think they've been added yet. I haven't actually looked. I've just seen them on my way to do something else. So I don't know what their status is right now.
I can be sure to do all of that today, like add those new folks and send them emails.
Okay, cool. Because I think that is going to be the way to get people to do it, instead of doing it like, I don't want to say retroactively, but instead of being like, hey, do you want to do this? But one thing we might do, and I don't know how you feel about this, Kay, but one thing that you and I might do is use our guild's Instagram to reach out to members and say, hey, do you want to be featured, directly?
Yeah, I was like, I think we're 100% in sync on that. I was thinking the same thing, just until we can get the process like streamlined to where, it's like in the email and they're just like adding their information themselves. I think it would be totally okay if we could just reach out to a few people over the next few weeks just to get like a little backstock of Meet Our Members posts ready, So that way we don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it like every single week. It's like we know we have people in the queue, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And we could still have them like fill it out through the form because you know, I think people understand we don't want you to just email us loose documents. You know, it's easier for us if it's all in one place. Okay, so maybe we think of like a certain number of people.
So update me because it's been
You cut
it's been a
out.
minute for me since yeah, hang on. Um,
Gotcha. I think maybe it might be a good idea for us to do. I don't want to necessarily say like a number of people we reach out to every week, but that might be a good way for us to chunk it out and make it manageable. So maybe between you and I, Kay, we reach out to like 3 people each or 2 people each. How does that feel?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Did you want to run the potential names by each other, like on Discord or something like that? Or do you have anything in mind?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I definitely want to stay. That sounds weird, but I want to wait to promote anybody who got into the show because that feels kind of redundant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we're, you know, going to talk a little bit about that and promoting them later. But I do think, I mean, we've got our active members list. That's usually where I have been going to check and make sure they're a member before I post their stuff. I think it's probably a good idea to do that. But definitely making sure we get their permission. I guess we could just run names by each other just to be like, hey, I don't remember if this person is on anything or if we've, you know, promoted them too much this week or something like that. But we've got like 100 and something people now. So I think it'll be unlikely that we'll have too many people kind of repeating themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
has my connection evened out again?
Yeah,
Okay.
You sound more consistent.
Okay, great. So I guess my question, just because I haven't done Meet Our Members in a while, do they just use the form now?
Yeah.
Just the form. Okay. So I will just go ahead and add a link to that. Like, so we don't need the Google Docs Meet Our Members guidelines anymore, because have we just at this point integrated it into the form itself?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
It might be helpful for posterity, but I don't think anything in that is different from what we asked them to do.
It doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into that right now as we're just like talking at this moment.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, so I guess that's probably it for Meet Our Members. So Kay, did you want to start the kind of conversation about the takeovers? Well, I guess I could say at least this. We only have one person who applied for the February takeovers. And after, you know, the conversation that Ruben brought to our mind, Kay and I started talking about revising the Instagram posts and the use of language. And yeah, I'll let you take it from there, Kay.
Yeah, I mean, Becky and I talk a lot throughout the week, so forgive me if I, share too much, or if I forget something, please jump in, Becky. Basically, we were discussing promoting the call like without the application deadline, one, because it's passed, and then two, because it feels a little like arbitrary at this point. If anybody wants to, you know, take over the platform for February, they're like welcome to do that. And we can always, they can DM us, and then we can like get their applications in an email or something. Just like while we're starting out, it doesn't have to be pushed so hard that they use the application. Especially because, you know, we haven't really established a precedent yet for what we do with takeovers. We have, I think we've done 3 so far. And so it's hard to point to that and say, well, you know, our intentions are, we want to make sure we're elevating every kind of voice. Obviously, we want it to be a very polyphonic space. And so that got us talking about like the use of language, and of course, whether or not we should, I guess, promote takeovers with words like Black or Indigenous, or, you know, with ethnicities or different intersecting identities attached to it. And we just wanted to have like a conversation about that and sort of decide like what direction we want to take this in. Because ideally, throughout the year, we're doing these takeovers and we're able to point back and say, look, we're trying to make sure that we are including, not just including and welcoming, but like making sure that our space is as diverse and inclusive as possible. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't have to have dedicated takeovers to certain groups. But I don't know, it's a weird balance. We're learning. And so, yeah, any feedback is welcome.
A big part of that was when Ruben brought that up, I was like, oh, wait, I also don't apply to calls that say Black. And my reasoning is a little bit more complicated, but a lot of it is just being like, you know, feeling kind of uncomfy with it. And I think there are 2 thoughts that we kind of discussed, Kay and I. And one of them was, on the one hand, we're a radical entity. That is the purpose of our guild, right? Why would we be subscribing to like a placating format of giving months of celebration? Because that feels very much like governmental tokenization, you know? So there's that. But then on the other hand, well, what do we say? Do we just say that to people who are like, excuse me, it's Pride Month. Why are you sharing non-queer artists? You know, like, how do we strike some kind of middle ground there in a way that's not, that doesn't feel tokenizing, doesn't feel kind of trite and like systematic in that same way as it has in the past for a lot of artists. Like, we want to make it clear, like, February is not the only time we're ever going to talk about Black people, you know? November is not the only time we're going to talk about Indigenous people. It's something we want to, and, you know, June's not the only time we're going to talk about queer people. It's how do we kind of strike that balance, I guess, in those rhetorical situations. So I don't know, what do y'all think?
All of that resonates really deeply with me. I mean, I think for obvious reasons, since I was really like directly involved with the situation, I've been really reflecting on it a lot, and all of these things sort of come to my mind as well. Like, I said the exact same thing about like queer shows. I've been a little like, I don't always apply to them, right? Like, I see them and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. Like, usually if I know who's like doing it and feel comfortable, then yeah, like I'll apply. But, you know, it's the same exact reason that you just kind of pointed out. And I think this new direction sounds great. I think it sounds like maybe like simpler, like less complicated, I guess, like less details or like less specificity, right? And it's like the less specificity, like the less we sort of play into like, I guess, like the risks of like tokenizing. So I agree with the directions. Yeah. And that was, yeah, just like what Stephanie said, not having the assigned months celebrate everyone all year round, like what was said.
Yeah, and like ideally, after we've had a platform for a whole year, we will have established that the space is exactly what we want, not just by explaining like our ideologies and like our reasons behind why we want to do what we want to do. It's like, no, look, we did it, you know? It's like we did make the space polyphonic, and we did make it to where people feel welcome to engage with us.
Yeah, because my feeling too was that like I felt, you know, when I was kind of reflecting on it, and like even before I even reached out to people, I was like, something about this feels wrong, but I don't know what it is. But I was also like, we're on a deadline. I gotta go, like, gotta do this, gotta meet this deadline. And I felt like I was going really fast. And I guess like in retrospect, I was thinking like, how can we maybe like slow it down so like something like this doesn't happen again? And I think like this is a great alternative to that because it's a much more slower approach. It's like kind of building up a foundation a little bit more. And I think it works. I think it will kind of do, I think it'll ultimately lead to like a more productive space and like use of our platform.
Yeah, I think one thing that we could consider in that situation. So the one thing mathematically, like objectively, that this will do is the way we had planned it initially. Excuse me. The way that we had planned it initially was that we were going to have essentially a like twice the opportunities to promote people within those months. And if we continue to do it where it's just the first and third Tuesday, that I don't have an issue with. I do think it would be a little bit easier as we get started to create that kind of track record, I guess we could call it. I think that precedent is the right word. I think that it is a good idea for us to kind of get away from the months. I do, however, feel like it is important for us to say something about the months, you know? I don't think we should completely avoid them. I don't think we should be like, we're doing our own thing. And I do think that's part of maybe why we leaned into it in the first place, was like, this is how we had seen other institutions do it and how we had seen, you know, them really perform allyship. And I think that is the issue, is it feels very performative. And we, as we went through the motions of doing it, we started going, wait, this feels a little weird. And then thankfully we have somebody to hold that mirror up to us and go, it is weird. And then we could have that moment to go, okay, yeah, this is what it is that's bothering us.
Totally.
So I think maybe we come up with an alternate solution for the month, whether it's just like, and we don't have to come up with it this very moment, but it could be something like just saying, you know, hey, happy whatever. And Kay said we could promote the heck out of platforms already doing the work for those communities and hold or who hold those identities. That makes sense, actually. Like we could really be pushing more info. Well, as long as they're smaller organizations, I think that's a good idea, because when it gets into the like, it makes sense, I think, for us to be like, hey, you should check out Black Box Press. Hey, you should blah blah blah. What is it? The Black Printmakers organ. There's a word at the end of it that I can't remember. But we could talk about those different organizations and say hello, like we know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea, and maybe that'll have to be like a collaborative consciousness thing, where we, you know, I don't know if I can ask. I know I can ask for like votes on Discord, but I don't know if I can ask for votes where you like submit just random stuff. So maybe I'll make a separate Instagram channel, like within the Instagram category, that is for, you know, suggestions for what to promote during, you know, certain months or something like that. That way it can get a little bit more collective and a lot less, a lot more transparent, I guess. Does that sound like a good idea? I saw Kay's thumb up.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like a good idea to me. And the other thing I was thinking about too is like even on as we like celebrate those months, like each kind of like, you know, monthly event, like Black History Month coming up, we also like lean into the intersectional component of everything, like make sure that like everything is sort of intersecting in all different ways. Cause that was also like part of that feedback, like in Women's History Month, like who are we honoring? Like, wouldn't we also want to honor Black women during that as well? And I would be like, yes, definitely. And that could just, you know, and I don't know like what that would necessarily look like, what that programming would fully look like, you know, with our platform. Like it would just, I think in a simple case, it would be like us sharing a bunch of different resources. So yeah, that's just kind of, I don't know, that's kind of where my head's at programming wise.
Yeah, I agree. And I just feel like we see so many different organizations and people like trying to create content for specific months whenever there's like already people doing it year round. You know, it's like that's literally like what their practice is about. It's like what they use their platform for. So maybe we can like point to those resources rather than trying to like become a resource temporarily, if that makes sense. um yeah.
Yeah, like we aren't like, yeah, we just aren't like established enough to be that resource at the moment, but we can be like a source of some kind, or like a kind of like amplifying power in some way. Like I think about
Yeah.
like International Print Center New York and Print Center New Jersey, like they're able to do things like do some of the recent programming they're doing because they have a shit ton of funding. Sorry for like swearing there. I know we're probably trying to be professional, but like they have a ton of funding that and a lot of resources already established at their disposal that allow them to do some of this stuff. And it's not necessarily that like we therefore like aren't necessary. Like I think we are, because we are like, that's not necessarily like a platform that was like founded on like people of color, like at least to my knowledge, you know, but they are definitely handing over their platform for, you know, Black women of print to do a lot of their programming right now. Like they just did like a really big exhibition around it. They were the jurors, right? And I'm sure they have like a lot more funding that they're able to offer to help then like support, you know. So eventually I think we can get there. But like our foundation is that we are intersecting identities and we are diverse in our own ways. And we are essentially like, as this membership, like the foundation.
I think that's a really good point, and I think it's also one thing we could look at it as is the term education. So there are other organizations that exist that are intersectional organizations that we don't just have to share the resources. They also might have informational, I guess, graphics or informational posts that we could be sharing during that month, like. One big thing that it's present in my mind a lot of the time is Black trans women and Black trans people's experiences of like violence and things like that. And I don't think that is something that is necessarily at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And so we could be sharing things like I listen to a podcast called Marsha's Plate, and it's run by Black trans people who are all very Southern. But they run it for that educational purpose. And so that could be something we could promote. Ruben said, how can we become in community with and truly lean into the collective point of view that we want to uphold? Yeah.
Like in tandem with what you were just saying.
Yeah. And I think it's also really a good idea to have that Discord channel open, because I have a very specific viewpoint based on my intersections, and just my lived experience that I don't know if anybody else is going to have. so I will come to this with a very different set of recommendations than, Stephanie might. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think, we should really just emphasize that it's a trial period. And also do something within our ability. So I want to do something that is orchestrated well. So I think maybe as far as the programming goes, we do something again on that daily schedule instead of every single day, because it's more manageable for us. And so maybe we could say every Monday, our story is about, either, there's part of me that feels like Black printmakers throughout history is like fun to put in there, but I'm also like, because, it is relevant to this month, but it's also the optics of it might feel a little bit forced, especially in consideration of some of like the echo chamber of, actions taken in the last year or two. So I do think maybe we say every Monday the story will be dedicated to, Black history and Black organizations and Blackness. Like that's very generic of a statement, but I don't think we should be pigeonholing ourselves, because beautiful things sometimes happen when we share things. Like when I shared that adjuncting post, one of our members sent us a DM and was like, hey, there's this other booklet that somebody wrote that, I looked into it, and it's a really useful resource that is hand printed it's hand printed in collaboration with the press by someone who has been an adjunct, and it's information that a lot of people don't learn until they have to learn it the worst way. And I think that might be a great way to start that dialogue and have, welcome more critiques and more recommendations. So yeah, I don't know. Does it sound good to just kind of dedicate a day of the week to a story on that day of the week to that kind of information?
That works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll make a list on my phone of accounts and things like that, just so we have like a bank to pull from. And yeah, I guess it's not like super, super important to like announce it necessarily, but like we just do it, I just don't want to make the same mistake twice,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure. Because look at us, we're the good guys. It's kind of, not a good look. And then I think if that works well this month, we'll consider this like a trial month, and we'll return to it in March. February, March. March is Women's History Month, so we would do something along that line. And I think we should expand Women's History Month to be Femme History Month, but that's my personal perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had when I teach my queer archive class, and like one of the major discussions that we had, because we were reading Anne Savitovich's Archive of Feelings and like an interview with her, and like her book is amazing, but like a lot of her stuff is like very women centric. And I had a lot of trans students, like trans femme students, like in my class, who were just like had a really hard time like getting into her ideas because of how like women centric she was, and it felt like trans exclusionary. So yeah, for sure. Totally agree.
Well, and even, I think we're at a point where we can kind of evolve to a place where we can talk about things in terms of the spectrum instead of a binary. I think it's important that we do that and model that, and that we don't make a big deal about it. My mom used to tell me that the bigger a deal you make, the less work you're doing. Because if you're doing the work, you wouldn't have the time to make a fuss,
Yep.
All right, so let's try that out this February. And we do need one more person for February, we can have, what I have done is I've rewritten the takeover form. That was one other thing I needed to talk about with everybody. I've rewritten it so that it says essentially that we will have between 2 and 4 takeovers in a month. So hopefully the minimum is 2. Hopefully we'll keep 2 at least every month. But we might have 3, we might have 4. And the person that we do have is Cam, a friend of mine, and he will be on the last Tuesday of February. So if anybody knows anyone who is Black or who is not Black or who is just alive, no zombies, I guess is my limit. But if anybody knows anyone who might want to do that. And I think just make it really clear to them they can apply for whenever. They can tell us if they're interested in anything in specific. I did create a schedule. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, so I hope that doesn't mess up anybody's streaming. But I did, this is the new form, so if you guys ever get a chance to read through it, I did put a link here for the calendar that I made. And this calendar just includes all the diversity holidays that I could find. And then also has people's names down for when they're doing just their initials, because it's nobody's business, for whenever they're doing this. And basically my language in here says, scheduling will be subject to the following calendar, which considers relevant celebrations of diversity, as well as our desire to continually offer opportunities to printmakers who are historically underserved. Scheduling will also take into consideration the participants' preferences in conjunction with the Instagram team leaders. So I can maybe clear that language up a little bit and make it sound less institutional, and just say, if you want to follow the schedule, you can. If you don't have to, which is essentially what I was trying to say. But it does say, like, okay, Lunar New Year will be happening this month. Actually, I'm going to take that off of here because that's redundant. But it will say, we do have, like, it is Black History Month, it's Women's History Month, it's also Deaf History Month next month. But it's like a weirdly timed month, so I didn't know how to phrase that. Celebrate Diversity Month, whatever that means. Autism Awareness Month. May is everyone's month, oh my gosh. I don't know who was like, yeah, whatever, give them May. And then July and August are nobody's month. So I did put down specific days that we might want to have someone. Like, it would be cool to have an experimental printmaker who's maybe a member on Earth Day, who works within, the context of the Earth. But also whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But I did want to, put all of this here and say, like, if you want to align yourself with this calendar, you can. If you don't have to. And then I put some notes. We're only going to celebrate secular holidays, though we are open to debate. No one has to ascribe to a certain month due to their identities. In months without large-scale celebrations, we will only hold takeovers on the first and third Tuesdays. We will have at least 2 takeovers per month, at most 4. And takeovers usually take place on Tuesday, but can be negotiated in favor of a relevant date for the artist. So I don't know if does that still feel like something that can be included? If I change some of that language and make it more clear.
Sorry, can you repeat that last part? What your question?
Yeah. Does this still feel like it's something that it makes sense to include if I change the language in the actual application to make it a little bit more clear, where we're just like, if you want to do something based on this schedule, you can. If you don't have to.
Maybe we could just say exactly what you just did, where it was like, hey, you don't have to subscribe to any like month that has a can't think of the word, like a celebratory thing about it. What is the word for that? Like a quality, a characteristic, like I can't think of the word, but we could just like say that maybe without linking to the spreadsheet. I kind of, I don't know, I like at the beginning of like, since we are at the beginning of like forming RIPG, I really like things to be personalized, and I'm just sort of, I just don't want anyone to like get this idea that we're like trying to be depersonalized, or that we're trying to be like institutions. And so if we can make it as like, not necessarily like casual, but like do things with like care, and like also setting our own boundaries and all that. Like I'm definitely not saying it should be so casual to the point where it burdens us, you know, but I just don't want them to feel like that it's just this air of like institution about it. And I think that the language you were using just to describe it to us would perfectly do that without necessarily like linking to the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think the word that comes to mind for me on what you were talking about, Kay, like versus institutional, being more community oriented. Which is like probably, I don't know, maybe like that's the connecting point for like, you know, kind of casual that you were referring to.
Like removing barriers however we can, you know, and if someone doesn't want to fill out a form, maybe that's like fine initially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like what we're doing right now, it's so heavily based on word of mouth, and I just want to keep encouraging that so that we can build strong relationships between us and the people that are involved, you know. That's what I truly am like trying to get at when I'm talking and saying a lot of things.
Yeah, I guess another way to think about it, or like the way that I'm thinking about it right now, like are the actions and programming that we're doing right now for the current membership that we have at this very moment, or is it the membership that we want to have?
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to put it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think like a big part of that is, you know, what is the action? Is there an answer to that? And should there be an answer to that? And I think we have to just like in the incorporation meetings, we have to remind ourselves like we're building this entire organization so that it can constantly flex and grow and change. And so it wasn't working in this past, you know, iteration. So let's change it and see if it works a little bit better. And if that doesn't work, we'll change it again, you know? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think that is, that was like an hour, but I think that's it for Instagram, other than, so the last thing that I saw was I know that the Instagram document has been revised, and that was Stephanie and Olivia who were working on that. So I think that if anybody, you know, wants to take a look at that, they can. I read through it and it's really good. It's well written. It's very clear. I do think if we have any like general volunteers who decide to hop in, that it would be a good idea for them to do that. And then we can just say like, okay, here are examples of appropriate content, inappropriate content, follower engagement, etc. But I think that's probably it. I don't know if Stephanie, if you had anything else to add to that.
I don't think so. I mean, we wrote that a while back, so I honestly, it's not fresh in my brain right now, but yeah, I think everything you said is great, and I'm glad that it comes across.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to go through all of it, but like when I was looking through it, and I think this was like what I brought up in the last meeting maybe, or something, I don't know. But I was just like, yeah, I think we should like model our other documents like this one because it's so nice and organized. It was very nice.
And Olivia brought, yeah, like the foundation, and then we just were, yeah, discussed it together and edited it to be relevant to us. So I'm not sure, yeah, where that was pulled from, but Olivia's amazing and we're grateful.
Yeah, I definitely remember that was my conversation with Olivia. I was like, can I use it? And she was like, yeah.
All right. So then the next thing is rise and pull. So the current status is that all participants have applied or replied, not applied. So everybody who got in has sent us a reply. I have shipping status for everybody but one person. Let me check really quickly. Joe has been sending me just like updates periodically. The main concern I have is it seems like almost everybody who shipped USPS, their prints have arrived, but they are like being held somewhere and Joe hasn't like gotten them. So I might in the future, Stephanie, ask you to just give Joe a call and see, if they're at a front desk or what, because I mean, he's aware of it already, but there were some that were like signed for on the 25th and Joe hasn't gotten them yet. So that makes me a little bit nervous. But right now we're waiting for 6 to arrive, and 13 have already shown up. So one of them will be late. I've already been notified of that. And so they have told us that if it's, too late to be installed, then it's okay if it's not installed. So, but that's really all I wanted to say there. I've been sending out confirmation emails for anybody who has received their, or whose work has been received by Joe, just so that they know, because the shipping situation got so wild. At the end, when everybody's stuff actually shows up, I'm going to send out an email letting them know. Joe has told me for sure that he would be able to recover or not recover, cover return shipping. I let him know that some people might have already sent return shipping labels. And there are some people who've also, like, I've extended that offer a few times where, like, if you need help, let us know. And there have been people who've actually offered to pay for other people's return shipping instead. So, which is really sweet. But I do think if anybody hasn't, created a return shipping label, Joe said he could pay for return shipping. So, which is really great of him. And then in that same email, I'm also going to extend the offer to showcase their prints on Instagram. I was kind of thinking if it takes a while for Meet Our Members to, fill up again, we could actually start posting those on Friday, and maybe buy some time for the Meet Our Members. But I think that's something we'll have to think about as time goes by, because we might get more Meet Our Members, and I'd hate to change the programming, but I'd also hate to have no posting on Friday and then mess up the algorithm, which whatever to the algorithm, but also it is, stupidly important for us to stay relevant. But yeah, I think that's about it with that. We do still need to send out the rejections. So if either of you on the mailing list would be able to do that, I have already drafted a rejection email. And I can give you like a list of names to send them to. So if anybody wants to help me with that, that would be great.
Yeah, I can help. It took me I think it only took me like 30 minutes to send like the individual emails of acceptance. So probably be about the same.
Perfect. Thank you, Ruben. And then I'm hoping, I tried to make this sound really hopeful because I know Kay, you had mentioned something about a potential opportunity for another exhibit in a different location. And I just want them to keep their eyes open, What that sounds very aggressive. Open your eyes. No, not that, but keep an eye out is I think the human phrase for that.
Yeah, I thought maybe after we I know that we're going to eventually start brainstorming about this like super cool like virtual social event. So maybe we could reach out to the folks who offered us a space to show work. We can reach out to them and get that all rolling after this social event, if that would work. I know we're all kind of like, we got opportunities, which is really cool. Like, you know, we got things we're doing, but we can wait on the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for one thing at a time. Sorry for karate chopping my desk. I don't know if you heard that.
No.
I kind of hurt my hand, but it's
Oh
fine.
no.
So we
Becky,
will send that rejection. Yes.
Would it just make sense to would it make sense to just send like one email, like BCC everybody, rather than just sending individual ones?
It might. I think let's talk about it. Like if you will take a, whenever you get a chance, take a look at the email and let me know if you think that that's something that would feel comfortable. I feel really weird about rejecting anybody. Just as a person, I'm like, no, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want you to. There's not enough. So
Yeah.
I would love to have a second opinion on whether or not that would feel comfortable, or if I need to change any of the language or anything like that.
Yeah, I can take a look at it. I feel like it was really necessary for us on the acceptance one to send individualized ones because we were including the piece, but on this one it's just general communication. So I just think for like the sake of time, we can just like expedite it and make it kind of like quick and easy. And I think like, again, just hinting that we will have more opportunities because we are like, that's like, we are not resting. Like we are gonna like keep going and making things like happen for our members. Like that's just, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of optimism there. And I think it's fine to just send like one generalized one. I can do it. I have no problem being like blunt, delivering bad news sometimes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
I got you.
Thank you. I would be like the worst judge on Dragula or on RuPaul's Drag Race. I'd be like, I like your sequins. You look pretty.
I'm the same. I mean, like I say like nice stuff all the time too, but I think I've learned how to be, it's my Scorpio moon. I've learned how to just be like blunt and to the point on some things.
Yeah. So I think with that, the last part is just a collaboration with Instagram to promote work. So if we could like iron out some of the kinks there. One thing with that, and this might actually be something that's better to talk about through Discord for a while, but I do think, so we have 19 participants. We definitely need to ask them if it's okay if we feature their work in the first place. I'm a little worried that, going through all 19, which I've already said this before, but going through all 19 in separate posts is too much, but then going through all 19 in one post is too much. So maybe kind of spacing them out either throughout a weekend or throughout the month of the show. Like maybe if we align it somehow with the show dates, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's,
Mm-hmm.
oops, sorry. I agree. I think that like throughout the month, because well, we don't want to take away from like any sort of programming or plans for the takeover that we have planned, or anything from Black History Month whenever we're like promoting people. But if it does align, like I can't remember the show date, so I'm really sorry. I feel like it's like first or second week of February into March maybe, but we could do it to where we're just posting like 1 or 2 people a day. Because I think right now we have maybe like at most maybe 3 posts per week. And I mean, you and I are like on there pretty regularly throughout the week. So we could space it out to where we're just posting like 1 person a day, or 2 people a day or something. Like I've seen that in for like other accounts, that's what they do. And I agree, like mushing everybody into like 1 or 2 posts might feel a little like I don't know, it's like it's this like celebratory thing, and I think we can drag it out a little bit longer and really give people like a bit of a spotlight for people to see their work, you know, throughout the course of the month.
Yeah, and I think it would be. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree with Kay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for us to kind of, maybe we do 19 is a weird one to chop up, but maybe we do like 3 people per post, because I think that would take us through the whole month. I think it is like the span of a month.
Why don't we give each person like their own post? Like if, let's say that I'm going to use the name Jenny, for example. Like, let's say we post Jenny's work at 10 a.m. and then we post, the next person would be Bob at like 4 p.m. or something like that. And then we can post like just one person per post and do that for a couple of days. Yeah, because I don't want to like make any assumptions about like who should be, because we're not like curating it, I guess, like, because that brings another like level of responsibility and level of like attention to curating that. I mean, I guess we could do that if we wanted to, but I know we're trying to like simplify things, so I wouldn't want to like pair works and make a fuss or anything like that. I just want to like respect each artist if possible.
And
Yeah,
you
do
can
individual posts. Oh, sorry, you go first.
No,
Lisa.
you're okay, Ruben. I was gonna just say that you can make like multiple posts without actually posting them and just have them saved up in your like to be posted section on your Instagram. So it's like as soon as they're ready, you just do it whenever you're ready to post it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and I was going to bring up too, like if we make posts, then what we can do is we can collect all of our posts. And I think we should start thinking about this too now with other things like Meet Our Members and then eventually with takeovers, consolidating all of those posts and creating guides. So we have like a guide to like the membership, a guide to the Rise and Pull exhibition, a guide to like takeovers. And so like we can like then like kind of customize each one and be like, this is it could include like a statement, and it is basically a call-a-thon. Yeah, like guides are still like they're still really not, I mean, like they introduced it, but it's like still not like a big thing right now, I guess. Like still like not enough people are making them, but it is one of those things that like if you're either like a travel Instagram or creative accounts, which I mean, like we would fall under that, you know, bracket, like they're really good things to use. So yeah, yeah, guides.
I feel like there was like so much hype about it when they first introduced guides, and I completely forgot about them until you just said that, Ruben. Like I forgot.
Same. I actually literally, because at first my thought was like, Stephanie, basically it's like a highlight, it works like a highlights thing, like how you highlight your stories, but it does it for your posts. And then like, not only does it like collect it, but it makes like a whole separate page on your Instagram that like has additional info. Like you can include like additional statements. So like travel influencers will create like a guide on like, this is a like where to go if you're traveling to Helsinki. And it's like, this is my post, or you can also use other people's posts too. Like it doesn't have to be just your own posts. Like you can actually incorporate any public posts. Is there an example? I'm like blinking. Well, and like also once like guides become more prominent, they're going to be like searchable too. Like you can just like generally search for guides, but they're like still not really a thing. I don't know.
That makes sense. Thank you for explaining it.
Yeah. How do we make those? Because I'm looking at the Instagram and I was trying to like make a new thing, a new post or whatever, and it isn't an option. Would we have to like, we'd have to assemble posts? I don't know.
Now I'm looking at it. Wait, now I'm looking at it, and because it is supposed to be there like in the
We have IGTV, yeah, feed post, story highlight, IGTV video, and a reel. And I think that's it.
I'll have
Did
to
they
look it
not-
up. There has, I think, I'll have to look it up. I swore it was when you do the ad thing, it was like part of like post, story, reels, live, and then it was supposed to be guides. I'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that would be cool. Maybe while you look into it, maybe we have like a tentative plan for a highlight, and then as it develops, you let us know. Like, feel free to pop into the Discord channel for that, because we'd be into it. And maybe I'll make a separate channel specifically for Rise and Pull on there. Let me write that down so I don't forget.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, Becky, I think, to have a separate channel for it.
Okay. But either way, like a guides or highlight type of function would be perfect. And then, so we'll do individual posts, then we can kind of accumulate them into highlights, I think. Or our highlights just with stories. Either way, we could post them to the story and just, okay, so I think that's a good idea. We'll definitely do them as individual posts. I think probably we should ask Tuan to make the call-a-thon, since she is the one who made the call, and that call is real nice. So it would be great if we could keep that kind of consistency visually. So I will make a note there to ask Tuan. I'm going to ask Tuan to do that in the design channel. Yeah. So, or the design category, which we can get to a little bit more about that in a minute, but cool. I think that's a little bit more fleshed out, and we can just kind of slip it in wherever we don't have other programming. And I'm going to put that we'll do multiple posts a day.
If you want, Becky, I can work on making I guess like a tentative schedule that breaks up the posts and people and all that. And that'll knock out some of the workload for Tuan as well. So we'll have like names and order and all that. Yeah. Ruben's talking about guides. Go to another. Okay. You have to go find another guide, open it, and then Instagram gives you the option to create your own guide. So we can create the post first and then create the guide. Okay.
Yeah, I just found out how, and yeah, it wants you to like already have something in mind before you can make it. So it's like, okay. I think it's so new that they're just not opening it up like all the way yet. I don't know. I'm not sure.
You might like be doing like a trial type of thing, to see if it catches on and if it's something that users want to use more often. Because I feel like like the reels, like that caught on so fast, and now everybody can do them.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like venturing into like blog territory.
I see. Okay, so that would be cool. We can kind of look into that. Thank you, Ruben. Yeah. Yes, that would be helpful, Kay, also, to have the kind of scheduled out visual. And then that way it's a lot easier to just be like, boop. And maybe what we'll do is we'll just attach the call-a-thon to everything and just promote people's posts alphabetically, basically. I think that's the fairest way. Because then it's literally like, well, it's just the alphabet. We're not, giving any kind of preference to anybody. Sorry. So then the next group is mailing. So I'm going to stop talking, Stephanie. Oh, one thing I did want to tell you, which is why I put organization here, is I did actually add a bunch of folders because we were getting a lot of rise and pull like response emails. So I made a folder for that. And I've made a couple of other folders in the Gmail as well. Feel free to, like, once a message has been opened by the person who's supposed to open it, what I've been doing is when I open things that are addressed to me, I just leave them looking like they're read. Usually I tend to put them in a folder, but you know, if somebody opens it and then just leaves it in the inbox, feel free to put it in the respective folder. And if they get mad at you, I'll fight them. But yeah, other than that, what's your volunteer status in that group? I know you sent out a message, and I wondered, what were we talking about? How many volunteers you've heard back from who are active, and then how you're structuring essentially tasks going forward and how you're delegating things.
Well, I only heard back from 2 people, which was Clarissa and I'm blanking on the other person's name. Maybe Ruben remembers.
I think it was Jameson.
Yes. And I haven't had an opportunity to like create a schedule, but I think if I'm not misremembering, Clarissa had suggested a schedule and maybe using the calendar for assigned weeks. So that's kind of where I'm at. I haven't assigned weeks just yet. I've just been checking it like once a week when I have time. But I would like to make it where we have more folks, yeah, like everyone doing some each week instead of just one person. So I just need to structure that more and delegate to the folks who are a part of this crew. But that's all we have is those people. And then as for MailChimp, I need to work on that some more. Yeah, and of course, I know you have design later on, but my only additional plans would be to figure out some design aspects for the header, because it creates its own footer. So I think that's the only other thing mailing wise that I have on my to-do list, are all of those things. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. The one thing I wanted to check was, so for the people whose week it is, what like specific activities are they doing? Like, should they be the people that I go to, like, for instance, with the rejection emails, should I have gone to one of them to have them send that, or are they just doing like regular upkeep of like the mailing list and sending out emails and stuff like that?
Probably
or
just
something else in between?
Probably just regular emails, because I don't know, I feel like that's a lot of, I don't know, I feel the same way you do, where I feel really bad rejecting people, and so putting that on someone else feels really wrong. So I don't know, I feel like maybe that's a primary or secondary person thing, because it feels like we have that like responsibility for like a thing that's heavier than normal, if that makes sense. So just normal mailing things, unless you all think there's something I should be expecting or asking of them, other than just adding people and responding to any questions that they may have answers to.
I agree with that. I think like I wouldn't have wanted any of the volunteers to be doing anything with the rise and pull emails, because that's like, they're not, I hate to like, not to use like business jargony words, but like they're not really stakeholders in in that project. So like,
it just feels like a lot of pressure to put on them that they may not feel comfortable doing. And I kind of feel like we all knew that was a part of it when we decided to do a show. So we're more, you know, we're the people to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think we should, those bigger things we should do.
Okay. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other like emailing that goes out other than the newsletter. What I've been doing is I try to get that done, at least drafted on Mondays. And then sometimes I've managed to actually like schedule it the day before and then it just goes out. But not every time, just because I'm a space case on the weekend. But I think I'm trying to think if there's anything else like, I mean, maybe not lately. Maybe that's what it is we had so many more emails that we were sending before. And yeah, we did figure out a lot as last week went by, and that would have really not been fun to put somebody else in, and then they'd have to play like a long distance game of telephone to figure out like who do I go to with this information.
Yeah.
So I think I'm trying to think about. I've been doing meeting scheduling through Doodle. Everything else mostly is happening on the Discord, so I think that might be it. I don't know. Is there anything else we could? I guess maybe the invitation to the virtual social event. There are some things that I do feel like should be separated from the newsletter just because I know that there are people reading and replying to the newsletter, which is fantastic. But also there are people who go, newsletter, long, no. You know, the TLDR of it all. So I want to like any kind of event that we're doing, maybe we send out something separate. And I think we talked about this last time too. So would that fall under the category of regular volunteers, or is that still primary and secondary, just so that we're all going to the right people?
Ask that question again, or did you ask was that a question?
I did, but it was also a sentence with like 4 other sentences attached. So essentially, like if we are having events, which my example is whatever virtual social event we're having next, that need to be like promoted outside of the newsletter, would that be something that, you know, we would, whichever team leader would send to you, Stephanie, or Ruben, or would it be something that we send, I don't know, to like a volunteer level?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what it is. But yeah, if it's, so your example was the social thing, I think they could. Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't know if Ruben feels differently or has other thoughts.
I guess the one thing that I think like we start getting into the territory of over delegation, which like becomes maybe like a little, then it just becomes, it's like, I'm going to write this thing and then I'm going to give it to you to actually like send. And it's like, when you could have just like sent it from the very beginning, like, would it have just been like quicker and more efficient to have just done that, you know, to just cut out the like extra step. And so I think like in a way, like I want to like protect volunteers from doing too many big things. Like if they have to use like any creative strength, then I feel like they shouldn't do it, because like that's maybe like not what they like signed up for. I think like simple tasks like on my end, like on the YouTube, and things like editing captions, like that's like that's like, that doesn't require a lot of like creative work. It's easy to kind of just like, it's like more menial and just like very task oriented, getting it done. Whereas like you know, drafting an email to send to somebody, you know, could be like difficult. I think like responding, if somebody has like a general question that they email us, like, hey, how do I access or how do I do this thing on Discord? Like a volunteer could answer that, but like if they know, but you know, they can also just like delegate that back to us. Like, hey, I don't know how to respond to this email. You know, like they can respond to like some, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think
that's my thought.
Like in the past, a lot of the emails have been directly addressed to a person. Like I've gotten a lot of me emails. Olivia's gotten a lot of emails for her. Ruben, you've gotten emails that specifically say, "Hi, Ruben."
Yeah.
And so I think maybe those also fall into that category of like, I'll handle it. And I check the email every day anyway, just in case, because, random things come in. Like when it comes to people offering to donate us money, I don't want that to be something that a volunteer feels like they have to be like, no. I'd rather be the one that goes, no, I don't, yeah, please, but no. So I think that's a good way to do it. And then my last question is, as far as like organization goes and having people put like read dealt with emails away, should that fall to, because I want to make sure I'm not like stepping on anybody's toes or putting things away when they don't need to be put away. Like the rise and pull thing I put away because there were so many more emails involved in that. And I was like, I can't, if anybody else is opening this email trying to just find people saying, hey, I want to be a member, they're going to have to go through like 25 emails. But I think I just want to see, like, is that a volunteer task? Is that a task for the two of you? Or is it a task for like whichever team leader they're addressing, Does that make sense? Because, they might be emailing, like it might be a volunteer emailing Ruben with something, Should Ruben be the person who puts that away in the YouTube folder, or how should we do that so that we're all on the same page?
I think of an email is, and this is just like me and my process, like if I like categorize emails versus like unread versus read. And so once I would imagine like for us, like once an email is read, it can be categorized by a volunteer. But if an email is unread, then they need to not touch it. And like it needs to just be like dealt with. And I think we have the thing on our Gmail. I think we have it to where all the unreads are prioritized. I think that's a setting that we have it as. I don't remember.
That's definitely what I have mine. I do the same system at where like I don't organize my emails if I just leave them either read or unread. And that's how I know they're needing to be dealt with. If that makes, I think that's what you said, right, Ruben?
Yeah, I just did it because ours wasn't set up that way. And so I just set it up so that all the unreads come up first.
Yeah.
Oh, like we have a new comment on, we have spam comment on one of our YouTube videos, FYI. We have somebody sending us porn.
Cool.
Yeah, I think. I think it's what that is.
You're not sure?
I'm not going to click it.
I think you would know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. I'm pretty sure that is. All right. Anyway, yeah, so like, yeah, but right now, like I just changed it. The only one that's like truly unread is the mailing list team update one.
Yeah.
Everything else is just like add.
And that's why it's unread, because I have read it, but I haven't got to deal with it.
Same. This is,
that's what
okay.
I do.
You and I.
That's yes.
Yeah, that's we have the exact same system.
Yep. I'm like,
notification anxiety.
Gotta come back to that.
Yes.
I'll mark that as unread.
Yes. But yeah, like I think that's a pretty easy enough distinguishment. Like it can just be read and unread. And if it's read, then our volunteer can organize it.
But I also understand what like the reason why we would want a folder for Rise and Pull, because like it was just so much and it's so different than our general emails. So I think that, Becky, if you were like, can one of the volunteers organize our emails, and you told me exactly what you wanted, I think we could ask them. I think that would just be like a special request task and just see who's got time to do it, if anyone. If that makes sense. I don't know. Could be a special request task.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to do it as kind of a special request, because so I organize things in a way where, I also do the read unread thing, but then also I will leave things there where I'm like, I'm gonna just keep that there in case, because I'm waiting for a response, but I know that I read it, but I'm waiting for a response. So maybe that is something that it would be easier to just do as like a special request, especially when we get into the more like nitty gritty phrase problematic. Anyway, into the more like detailed things. And then Kay also said, does anyone use tasks on Gmail? I have never used that, no.
I don't.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a reminder, like how like on iPhone has like reminders. It's basically that, and it links to, my friend Foucault does it, and it like if there's if there's a task within an email itself, like you can pull it out and then like you can link it to it. So like it is convenient because it's linking back to another email, but I don't know. I think this is also like this is like my personal struggle with like setting reminders and all this stuff. Like it's just like I have to take the time to then like do it, and then it's like, could I have spent that time making the reminder to actually just do the thing itself?
Yes.
But one thing that I actually was thinking about for like just general organizational stuff, like this is like broader and can expand to the entire guild and like to all of our tasks in general. But like there's an app called Trello. Has anyone used it?
Yeah,
I think
I don't love it.
I've heard it
be
suggested, but I haven't used it before.
Yeah, I mean, like I've tried it and like it's not bad. It's just it really needs somebody who's like, I think like if you get like one person who makes it and is really, really good at making it and organizing it and doing all that stuff, great. Like I don't like, again, I'm already bad at setting reminders and setting up tasks for myself anyway. So I just like do things like when I need it, and so then I just like forget about things like Trello. Kay, did you feel like
hated it is what Kay said?
Yeah.
It was
Or
like, it's one of those things where it's like adding another application to our lives, when I don't know about y'all, but I look at like 5 different apps a day and spend lots of time on them. So like I don't want to have to add that. And I'm thinking that like there might be certain volunteers that like they prefer to get like a reminder on their phone, like I'm definitely someone where like I set a reminder for like 5 days from now, and then I know I forget about it completely, and then on that day where the reminder's set to go off, I remember I sit down for 3 hours and I do it or something, like I work really well with reminders, and I know that some volunteers wouldn't want that either. So I guess maybe just like striking a balance between that and just having a conversation with the people in our teams and asking, hey, what works best for you? Like, should I email you? Should I text you? Should I just put it on Discord? Because like I definitely had that conversation with Olivia at one point where I was like, hey, what's the best way to reach you? Like, I'm not trying to like infiltrate your Instagram and put business on that, I'm not trying to make it so that you have 10 million unread texts from me. Like, is an email the best? And then she told me exactly what she wanted, and there haven't been like any hiccups since. And I think we're small enough right now that we can probably just like talk with each of our volunteers about what they want. And then if none of them want to do tasks or Trello, like cool beans, we don't have to do that. But then maybe if someone wants to do it, just making sure that we're contacting them in the way that they want makes the most sense, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, we've already asked a lot of people to learn Discord, and we've started to incentivize it. We have the community, we have the chit chat and the memes and, actual like community building, which has been really nice. But when it comes to apps like Trello and stuff, I haven't looked at it, but I personally have like a deep abiding dislike of organizational apps, and it's because I have ADHD, so my brain gets very overwhelmed. Like I have to have everything specific to me. So this is going to sound real nutty, but it's also like years of therapy. but like I have to make a list every day of the things I need to do, and then I have to color code it, and then I have to, and it takes me about an hour to get everything, started in one day. But if I were to, be forced to look at an app on my phone, I don't pay attention to phone notifications. I can't. I literally cannot. My brain goes, whatever. And I just let it go, and then I don't do it. So I have to physically write copies out, maybe because of kinetic learning, I don't know. But I feel a little uneasy when it comes to things like that, where it's like, let's put all these things in a specific calendar. Kay and I talked about like having, and this is for Instagram, but having like a visual calendar kind of designed out that just reminds us and keeps our pacing, because Instagram is something that we've assigned days to, and it's easier to do that with Instagram. But I think that like some modification of that might work, where it's just like, depending on the tasks of the group, like I know with YouTube, I think Ruben, you've been giving them like relatively self-motivated deadlines, but still deadlines. And those have been communicated through Discord, and they seem to be going pretty well. Like I talked to Alyssa feels really confident with Discord, and so does Haley, it seems. So things are getting done there, and I don't know if they need a visual. I don't know about the mailing list. I think like the mailing list has the Google Calendar still set up from like before, and maybe that's what they prefer. But I worry that if we start asking people to like learn very specific things like that, then it might cause some disengagement,
Yeah. I'm the same as you. I was going to say, yeah, I also have ADHD, so I write everything out, and then I highlight everything that I've finished, and then if my list is too chaotic, I rewrite it. And yeah, a bunch of times. But I can't do a digital, I'll make a digital calendar for other folks, but I usually write things out, and that's what I reference every single day off of.
I concur. Mine's maybe even more chaotic. Like I just literally juggle it all in my head.
Oh no.
That's probably like not.
I trust you, but I don't work that way.
At KC, at the school as like shop tech, I have an understood knowledge of where everything is at all time in my head, and I also just like remember all tasks, and I just like communicate to the other person, and I'm just like they'll have forgotten about something, and I'm like, did you do this? And they were like, no, and I was like, it was a thing from like a week ago, and I'm like, it's still haunting me. So that's just me. That's just me. I'm a lunatic.
No.
Well, and for me, like I have it all in my head, but I have to actively write to get it to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
So
I do write it out too.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
If I relied on my brain, I would literally just lay down all day. It would be the one thing I wouldn't remember to eat. I would just be a little larva. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think maybe we don't do Trello, but we talk a little bit more with individual teams is kind of what we've decided. Okay. So I think that's it for mailing. I don't want to cut you off, but
no, that's all. I'm good.
Cool. So for incorporation, we have the most active members probably in this group out of the two that I've interacted with at least. We've got about 5 people who fairly regularly show up to the meetings, 2 people who are relatively in and out, but still active and engaged. Sometimes I have to hunt them down on Instagram, but that's about it. And then we're trucking along in this area. We finished the draft of the officers' bylaws at the last meeting. That vote is now in progress. The next meeting to draft the teams section is being scheduled right now. I've gotten a couple of responses to the doodle poll. And then I think I'm waiting for 2 or 3 more people. So I might need to send them messages to remind them. That's the one thing about doodle polls that I don't like, is like a lot of people use them in grad school, and then there are a lot of people on our teams that are in grad school. So it's like, but also they don't send reminders. So I need to remember to send something out for that. The next meeting, I'm hoping will be either next week or a little bit into the week after that. And then we will be reviewing the results for the board member vote. And you all feel free to look at that as well. We only had 11 responses this time, so that's a little bit disheartening. That is part of why I was wondering if maybe we should be sending out additional reminder emails, not just the calendar, because this last vote was, I think, a test of that calendar. And a lot of people said no to the invitation. A lot of people just didn't answer the invitation. And then we had like 2 or 3 people that said yes to the calendar invitation. And I have no way of knowing whether or not they followed through on that, but it might be better for us to just do reminder emails and like messages on Discord. And I will say, the thing that happens for me is I have a tendency to get 2 out of the 3 coordinations. So I remember 2 of the places. I'll remember Instagram and Discord, and then I forget to write a letter. Or I'll remember the letter and I'll remember Discord and I forget Instagram. So I think if the mailing list feels comfortable doing this, if you 2 would like to do it, maybe sending out a reminder the day before any vote is up would be really helpful for me.
I have a question, y'all. I know that the bylaws, when we like put the vote out and people look at them, like I'm aware, we are all aware of how long they are, right? Like they're very long. So I'm wondering if maybe instead of like every couple of weeks having like a new vote go out, what if we did, I don't know if this would work. It might be like a really dumb idea. What if we did like a monthly thing where everything we accomplish in that month, they can vote on it, and it just goes out once instead of, I guess it's only going out twice at the moment. I feel like the length deters people, how long it is. That's something we can't get around. Like it's just gonna be long, like sorry. But my thought is like maybe if we limit it to just once a month, they just have to sit down that one time, knock it out, and then they don't have to do it again. But I'm like not a data analyst, like I don't have any experience doing this. It's just like a intuitive suggestion. I don't know. And we also don't have to like decide on it right now. It's just like a thought, like think about it over the next couple of days or week, and then we can talk about it again at our next meeting, like how we feel about it, if anything. Because I know we only have like left.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. What I worry about is just in my past experience with like artists specifically, but also with people in general, weirdly, the more time you give people to fill something out, the fewer people fill it out. I don't understand why. I have never understood why. It is like the bane of my existence, because my Capricorn brain is like, I gave you a month. But it's something that just it's like the span of relevance, not even memory, but it's like relevance wanes at about a month, you know?
Yeah.
And so that would be my main concern. And then I also worry, like, what if it's like the past month where we got bylaws and officers done? That's just going to make it twice as long. So I don't know. It also might be that, people feel it could be that what is happening is people are feeling confident that we're taking their suggestions seriously. And then because they feel confident, they don't feel the need to vote again because we said that we made the, edit.
That's true.
It also could be that we did this vote in the first part of the semester. So I think
that's what I was going to say is I think also like the timing, like everyone's a little overwhelmed right now with the beginning of school. Yeah.
So maybe we can just work on like our timing then, making sure that we take into consideration the various things that might be going on within the milieu of like the of our membership, because a lot of them are probably college students, adjuncts, professors. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
And Kay, if you could help me with that, because I am free, but I also I can't remember the way that people are kind of laying out semesters. I know from just the milieu of talking to everybody that this is the first week, but I don't really know how it's feeling for everybody. I know a lot of people are having spring break and then people aren't having spring break, and it's kind of wild. So if you could kind of help me pace that, that would be great.
Definitely, yeah. I guess we could just really go easy on January and then like May, like the first 2 or 3 weeks of May. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I feel like hopefully the other thing is the Instagram algorithm recognizes that we're reposting the same images, so it's not promoting them as heavily, which is a really big bummer. So, but I don't really want to change colors for things, and I don't know how to kind of game that algorithm so that more people are seeing our posts even when they look like reposts, I don't know. Oh, and Stephanie said probably also mid-March when midterm might be happening. That's a good point, especially since a lot of places are just barreling straight through midterm into, no break territory. People are going to be kind of burned out at that time. Okay, so we'll do that. And then other than that, after we review, I guess, I don't know if we want to review it during this meeting just because it's been a while. We've already been talking for a while, but I think maybe we need to plug info into that Instagram graphic and then just kind of promote that. I guess what I will do is I'll just post it on the Discord before it goes out on Instagram. Does that sound good? Or we will. It doesn't have to be me. Okay. Cool.
Is Tuan going to make another graphic for these results?
So Tuan gave us the template.
Okay.
For
Cool.
it. I think she did. I'll double check. But we should be able to just yeet things out. That's part of why she didn't put in like any graphs, because we'd have to change them every time. Because she's really smart, even though I also told her I really hate pie charts because they're the most inaccurate way to represent data in the freaking world. But I think she also just figured it would be an easier way to use it. And then next is design. So I'll just go ahead and hand that off to you, Stephanie, since Olivia's not here, for volunteer status. And then also, I know you said you all might do a meeting. So I wanted to check in and see if that had happened or if it was.
The meeting has not happened. I do still want to do it. And yeah, and mostly we're just going to talk about how I would like them to make a header for header for our emails and for MailChimp, and oh yeah, and then I see you say redesign. So basically I just, if you want to send, or I guess I could reference this, I just need like a list of things for them to be thinking about. And then I would like to schedule a meeting, and I had talked about that with both Twine and Barbara a while back and just haven't touched base again. So I'll reach out to them this week and see when's a good time to talk. But those are kind of my thoughts. Oh, and Olivia too. I've been keeping her in the loop as well with anything that's been happening. Yeah. But those were all of our thoughts, I think.
Okay, cool. And then just let us know, or let let me know if you need any more detail on like anything to do with the newsletters. I have like vague ideas, but they're, mostly focused on like visual separations for information so people can scan it. That's about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to give me, your idea, just tell me whatever way you want to, Discord or whatever, like how you would like what visual sections you want, and then we can get those going. And there may be additions and subtractions later, which is totally fine too.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
if you
Feel free to.
if you send me all the things that you are interested in getting graphics for, then we can create, like what's a realistic schedule and what's a priority and stuff like that.
Okay. And would it be helpful if we like had a, excuse me, I'm sorry. If we had like I hate to say like a standing deadline, but like a time frame, I guess,
Yes.
by which
Yes.
we should give you guys like that month's design ideas. I know some of it's going to be spontaneous, but like between Kay and I, we can do some of the stuff for Instagram, like some of the graphics we already have a lot of like templates for anyway, that we can kind of work off of. But then it might be something like for instance, the whatever virtual event we have, maybe we want to have a promotional image for that. I wouldn't want to say that the day before we promote it. So maybe we like do a 2-week rule or something.
Yeah. Yes. And so anything that you send me, if you could also, put what is what is the most important to the least, or like the thing that could wait. Not that it's not important, but you know what I mean? Like hierarchy of what you would like done. Because I'm gonna see about in deadlines, and so if you have dates you would like things by, that will help everyone, I think, instead of because if I know something's coming up and it's due, I'm more likely like I'll complete it closer to that date, because I have so many other things that are on my list that are due sooner, so that'll be helpful and for everyone, I think.
Would it be helpful if I took your Discord channel, and you could do it too? I think I know I have given you interim board member permissions now.
Okay.
But would it be easier if we went into the category and created different channels for each team to ask for like deadlines, or to ask for designs, and supply like deadlines and additional information? Or would that like be complicating the issue? Because then it would be a bunch of deadlines in different places. Or it could just be a channel that says deadlines, One could be a channel that's like working conversations, and one could be a channel that's deadline specific or proposals or something like that.
Or so if you pin something, will that like keep it to where you'll always see it?
Yeah, so maybe that'll be the first thing you see every time you look at it.
So then maybe that's what we should do. So instead of creating another channel, maybe you just write like, this is the thing we would like done, this is the deadline, and then you pin it. So that way, there's not a bunch of things all over the place and trying to find where it was. It'll just be accessible. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Thank you. And then Kay also was talking about a visual schedule for Instagram, so I might actually have them talk to you more use the Discord more directly to describe that. Because I'd hate to be like a thing and then be wrong or like misunderstand somehow. But I will put that into the list that I put on Discord. And cool. And then the logo redesign competition, I think that's also something that can wait because we're doing this virtual event. So one thing at a time.
You're not competition. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. I think that would be like a fun way to kind of like how Frogman's does, but we're not making t-shirts.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know what we could give them in, as compensation. So that might be something we talk about more later. But maybe percolate that in everybody's mind.
I'd be willing to give a print. That's all I can. That's all I got.
Same.
to offer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could also give them like a free membership or forgiven membership dues in the future. That's all we got. I don't know if we have anything else. A high five and, affection. But yeah, that'll be something we can think about more. Okay, and then next is YouTube. So, Ruben, you already know I talked to Alyssa, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, it's just a matter of like making sure like all the captions have been like audited. The captions are there, thanks to the transcripts provided by Zoom. So it really is just like that matter of doing that part. And thanks for reaching out to Alyssa and well, really just Alyssa. I haven't heard from Haley much. So like even when I like send something out, like I don't really get any kind of response. So I assume though that they're watching or like they're seeing that stuff and checking on it. But the other kind of major thing that I pulled from like the agenda as well was like the how-to that we picked up on from like the Discord how-to that we picked up on. I haven't been able to like reapproach that since the last meeting, but again, that's like that wouldn't be like too difficult of a thing to like kind of just set up real quick. It would be like a Zoom recording and then just like editing it and adding like quick little title cards.
So my question for you then, would you like more volunteers? And this is my personal opinion, but I do think CCs might be the easiest way to get like general volunteers to be doing something.
Yeah.
But would that be something you'd be interested in? And is there anything else for YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think like if we had maybe one more, that would be fine. But because it's mainly just been like though like incorporation and board meeting. Like those have been kind of the only two that we've been really having. So I feel like having Alyssa take care of one and then having Haley take care of another would be like a perfect delegation for both of them. I just want to make sure that like, because I know like Haley kind of mentioned that like they prefer having the VTT files. And then you said you talked to Alyssa and Alyssa prefers to actually edit within YouTube Studio. So I guess like the one thing that I'll do for Haley then is to include the file so that way they can edit the transcript file directly while listening to the video. And then they know how to go in and just like replace that file. So yeah, but other than that, no, I don't really have I haven't really like brainstormed anything else for YouTube tutorial wise other than like the Discord one. I'm also just like thinking about maybe like ways that we can link to like make playlists of like other videos and like resources that we really are like into, like maybe like print resources as well, like how to print,
Yeah, and I think one thing we can do is as we kind of get the ball rolling, especially as incorporation starts to like finish up, it would be easier for us to be like, okay, well, let's start putting this energy into other programming and other types of videos and meetings. Because you make a good point, it's mostly incorporation and board meetings. But once we start actually running the guild the way that we're writing out that we're going to run it, there's going to be a lot more, like a huge influx on YouTube of recorded meetings. So
yeah,
that'll definitely change.
Right, because we would have some for zone and board.
Exactly. And then whatever kind of programming they're having individually. And it's something to consider as far as our social events. Do we record those or not? Which probably not, but do we start having little additional programming that I'm being very vague because I don't want to put like ideas into anyone's head specifically at this point because there's too many open doors there. But you know, we might start having something a little bit more casual that is recorded but is more based on community building and less on, you know, transparency.
Yeah, I was just kind of like thinking about this, like how far into YouTuber territory do we want to veer into? But I mean, I was also like thinking, like, would it make sense once the bylaws are written that we have a video of us like reading the bylaws? Although that
Yeah.
also feels maybe like semi-permanent, and like we didn't design the bylaws to be that, so maybe that's not like a good idea. But like, I don't know.
Well,
like,
we haven't written our social media addendum, so that could be something we pop into that.
yeah. So, you know, just kind of like thinking like how far do we eventually want to like veer into that, and then like whose responsibility is that then? You know, does that become a zone rep, or does that become like, does that like fulfill a specific zone rep's like mission with YouTube, like what they want to do with YouTube? Like, do we empower them to just like do that? What role does the board have in YouTube? You know, other than just like uploading their meetings and all that.
Yeah, that's a very good point, especially if it starts costing or generating funds. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Is that a thing that
yeah.
we?
It'll have to get voted on by the membership, I think. I think that'll just be, I think that'll have to be like growth based, you know, as we get big enough. Maybe
Okay.
that's something we start doing.
I had not
Okay.
thought of that. But that was like a really good point that I was just like, oh yeah, we could monetize this.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else for YouTube?
No.
Okay, cool. So now the like slightly more fun stuff. So we already kind of talked about a bunch of different things with volunteer engagement and then the list of general volunteer tasks. And we've talked about this for a couple of meetings. But I feel like probably we all are closer to being on the same page as far as like what teams need and what we can ask for from just general volunteers who can't necessarily commit to a team right now. So I guess my question is, since it's already 6, I had kind of hoped we would have a little bit of time to work on this together, but instead I think what we'll do is flesh it out a little bit over the next week. Does that sound good? So by like next Friday, that can be the final document that I send out to, well, that we all send out to the actual individual volunteers and approach them and say, are you still interested? Because I'd really like it if, you know, you could help us with one of these, let's say one of these 5 tasks that, you know, are really easy. And then that'll make it maybe a little bit easier. So, okay, I will put down Friday for that. The next Friday, which means on Saturday, we'll start reaching out, which will give us a good week to start reaching out to general volunteers. And then at our next meeting, we can talk about like who's not on the volunteer list anymore, who is, what kind of response we got. And then I did put up a Discord how-to channel. I don't know if anybody's looked at it, but I have also promoted the Discord a couple of times in the newsletter where I've said like, hey, if you haven't done it already, or if you didn't know what it was or didn't realize it was, you know, going to be a community thing, you should join. And we've gotten a couple of people who've joined that way. So that's been pretty fun. I think I might start doing that. I don't necessarily want to do it every newsletter because I feel like it'll get really redundant and people will, you know, develop that like repetition blindness to it. I don't know if that's a good way to phrase that, but they'll start, you know, kind of phasing it out of their consciousness. So I think I would like to, yeah, we could do a Discord post on Instagram. That would be really fun. And I've been putting it at the bottom of every Instagram post. Do you want to be part of our community Discord, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it would be good to have like a dedicated Discord post on Instagram. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how we would visually create that, but we can kind of talk about that a little bit more, okay? And I'm open to any ideas. But yeah, I think other than that, the virtual social event. So what do we want to do? How do we want to promote it? And when do we think we would do it? I know that's a bunch of questions, but just some general ideas.
Okay, so what if we did like a lineup of like we'd have to solicit these folks, and I don't know that we'd be able to like pay them, but um we could have like live printing events, like 10 or 20 minutes a piece or something like that. Like it could be like a I don't know, maybe 4 hours too long, maybe like 3 hours. And then we could have like a few people that we invite to do like live printing. And then that was my idea. Yeah, that's the end of my statement. Sorry.
I think that would be fun.
Doesn't have to be all of it. That could just be like a portion of it. Like I'm thinking about some of the other like events that I've seen. So there might be like poetry readings or like a cappella singing or something like that. That's what I've seen. So like some karaoke could be kind of cool. I don't know how that would work over Zoom, but just like
I bet someone's done it.
I know, right? Like
Because you can share audio and you can get those there's like YouTube karaoke channels. So you would just like share audio and then like sing over it.
yeah. And
Um,
we can do multiple ones. So like if we can't squeeze everything into this one, we can do another one. And I bet people would love it.
yeah, and we could do like a pachakcha too, like presentation, like little quick lightning artist talks, like if you want to like share your work.
Yeah, maybe what we should do is like bill it more as an open house and less as us soliciting people specifically, because I think when you say open house, it's a little bit more broad, where it's like, just show up, do what you want. We'll watch you. It's cool. One thing I worry about with that is like giving people designated time slots and ensuring that they have an audience makes me a little bit like concerned. And also maybe making it that long kind of makes me a little bit concerned, especially for our first one. I think my preference is to do something a little bit shorter and a little bit less orchestrated for the first time, just to gauge the level of interest.
Yes.
And like the level of engagement also, you know, how many people are actually seeing these posts, how many people think it's a good idea. So maybe one thing we could do, I don't like that idea. I was gonna say it could be something where it's like meet your board members, but that feels gross. Maybe it is something more like literally meet our members.
Well, and I was also thinking too, like, this could be really crucial for them to like be reintroduced to the guild as well, and to be like updated, because some of them may not truly, they may be like passively following us, and because this was kind of the impression that I got from like when I was kind of reaching out about Instagram takeover stuff, but like one of the comments was like, I'm just kind of watching y'all and seeing what y'all are doing. And so this could be a nice way to also just be like, hey, remember us? Like this is what we've established. And like, we were like, this is what we said in July of, 2020. And this is now 1 year later, kind of where we're at, which I know now I just said like 1 year later. So it's meaning like summer, but, which I think this should happen before, but like, it could be like, these are kind of, this is what we've done. This is where we're sort of, this is where we've landed, and this is what's going to become available. because I think like this would publicize and make people aware of like what they would get into. So that way, like when we do our eventual open call for board and then eventually zone reps, all of our membership is sort of like in the know of what's going on. And yeah, so I mean, it's like, I know it's like drier and less fun,
Well,
but it's like a great way to just like reconnect with our membership too, like really directly instead of like secondhand through like Instagram and emails and all that and Discord.
yeah, we could kind of call it like an almost like an AMA, like an ask us anything situation, where it's just like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
What's going on? How are you? Because I think most virtual events do center around like a group of people doing something performative for another group of people, like the cooking demonstration. That's not the correct way to describe what Ani and Eliana did, but I can't remember the right words. Or like podcasts, or like it's always somebody doing something. And I think maybe what we should do is like approach it so that it's really clear that like we're not doing anything performative. It's just us hanging out.
Yeah.
And you can come in or you could leave, stroll in whenever you want. I do think that might also be really appealing to people. We could call it like our second interest meeting too,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think interest meeting was like a really helpful phrase for a lot of people. Although I worry that the interest meeting would like make people who are considering themselves members feel like unwelcome. But something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we
And
could
also-
always do improv. Let's not do that.
And also like the interest meeting, the initial interest meeting happened in the summer. So like a lot of people were available, because
Yeah.
they're already like free and they're like,
And it
yeah.
was also like a social context as well. A lot of people were not just free, but forcibly free. They had nothing, they couldn't do anything because
Yeah.
of the pandemic. And then there was a lot of like momentum for change at the same time. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no. That's like, that's like totally it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe something we do is, sorry, I'm scrolling through something to see like, it's a list of suggested virtual events. I'm not finding anything fun though. It's a bunch of like virtual tours of homes, and I'm like, that feels weird. Let's not do that.
Maybe we time it during like spring break or something.
Yeah, that I think is a good idea too. Well,
Although technically I have 2 spring breaks because both schools I work at did not time their spring breaks at the same time.
Well, and a lot of people are also just eliminating spring break. So
Yeah, I heard about that. Like University of Kentucky is doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think is.
We don't have spring break.
Oh wow, that's wild. We're just gonna go. We're gonna do spring break and then we're gonna be online for 2 weeks.
That's gonna be wild. So you'll do spring break, only come back for 2 weeks, and then go back to in person?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sorry, this ADD brain, I can do 2 things at once. That's wild that that's the plan. I hope it works. But it just occurred to me we could all do an art project together.
Oh.
Sorry, I got really excited. Like something easy and cheap, and there's a podcast I follow that they do like a Zoom thing that they call witchcrafting, where they do like a cute little cheap spooky craft together. And whoever wants to go goes, and they don't, put the onus on anybody. They try to find the most affordable materials that they can. And we could really, I've done a lot of art center teaching, and I'm sure among us we've got several people who have as well. Um, so we could easily just, do something like that as well. I don't know. What do y'all think about that?
I think that sounds really cute and really fun.
Yeah, my thought was cute.
Yay! So we could do something like that. Maybe we do a Valentine's Day is too quick of a turnaround. Dang. Let's do Earth Day. Do you like that I'm more excited about Earth Day than Valentine's Day? I really like Earth Day. But I think like that would be a fun craft. That gives us a good timeline to kind of promote it. And it's a good incentive to do like recycled materials as well. So it's, reduced cost for everybody. I don't know.
Yeah, that
I
works.
might be getting carried away, but I'm sorry, Ruben, go ahead.
No, I think that's like a great idea. And I think that would be like really fun. That gives us a lot of time. And Earth Day is, I feel like, sometimes underappreciated. I feel like
I love trees.
Yeah, I love the Earth.
Yes.
I love this planet that we're on.
Yeah,
that we're
we'll also
destroying.
roll around in dirt for a while. So maybe we do Earth Day, something fun that day, and then another thing I was thinking was that could be something we record for people who can't attend, and we could see it, and it would essentially come with like a demo. I mean, we're all artistic people. We probably don't need the demo, but what if we do? So, I think it would be really cool to do something simple like that. So I guess if that is the idea we're going with, which it doesn't have to be, and it can also be something we come back to later, it doesn't have to be the first one we do. Maybe we would need to do like a little bit of like fun recon planning to determine what craft it would be.
Works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm a little like brain dead at this point, but
Yeah, and I think that's also like a fun thing for us to do, where it's just like just show up and kick it. It's a little less, because I think we are all very stressed out. I know we're all very stressed out, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. And I think it would be really nice. It is really nice for us to have. Oh, that's perfect. Yes, we'll make a Discord channel to brainstorm. But I do think it's like a good idea for us to say, okay, we do want to have another like interest meeting follow-up kind of thing and ask us anything. But we also want to do like a fun thing that's cathartic and therapeutic and, just social in and of itself. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Earth Day is all the way in April. So that's a solid 2-ish months away, 2.5. Are there any fun holidays coming up before that are not religious or Valentine's Day?
St. Patrick's Day, I guess.
ugh.
Wait, is that?
I mean, you could argue it's religious.
I'm just.
But...
I'm not like a proponent of it. I'm just mentioning it. That's the only one I can think of.
I know.
Yeah.
I think I just like really dislike that one because in Kansas City it gets
Great.
Yeah, in Manhattan it used to get wild too. Like
yeah, like cars would be like flying off hills here, running into like how it's just ridiculous.
Somebody told me a story. So we have Fake Patty's Day in Manhattan. And somebody I was working with in an art center told me a story about how she had a friend who leaves town every year for it because they were like, I don't want to deal with this. And
Yes.
they came home the day after Fake Patty's Day to a drunk man who was half clothed, sleeping on their kitchen table. And they said, excuse me. And he woke up and he went, what? And they said, this isn't your house. And he went, okay, and left.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds
So
about
I
right.
understand.
That sounds about right. That's just like, yeah, that's like my personal repellent to that. Although I was just talking with my friend Allison, and she was talking about reclaiming Valentine's Day to be more queer. She was like, just get rid of the capitalist part and let's like make it queer. And I was like, yeah.
You got me right in the heart with that one.
I know.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. I wish
I wish we
with
could
all
kill
my heart.
capitalism.
Yeah, I wish we could do every holiday forever.
Capitalism sans capitalism.
Yes, exactly. It was all just dig in the trash and make something cute. I'm thinking maybe we could do something for the first day of Women's History Month, and that would be a way of acknowledging it, like a craft for that. But you know, we could also do like a we could also just do some things whenever, like it doesn't have to be tied to a holiday. I just think a holiday might get more people involved. But one thing I just thought of, because I was looking at Read Across America Day, is we could do recycled bookmaking or
Yeah,
book binding.
wanted to like do more bookbinding.
Yes. So
I-
that might be something we do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes. Yes, I love
I'm
it.
gonna write it down.
I actually I've been like really wanting to make a box lately.
Yes, I love boxes.
Yes.
Having
such a
very
pain in the ass to
disproportionate
make.
reactions to the things you're saying. I'm
They're
sorry.
such a pain in the ass to make, but I want
are.
to make them.
Yes,
I made
and
a
I like
bunch
learning.
for my
Mhm.
show. So if you want me to, or I don't know if you know how, but I can teach you how to make a box with a lid if you want.
I have the
Yeah.
tutorials. I haven't done it honestly since undergrad, which for this is like 11 years ago at this point.
Mhm.
And I loved it a lot, but I just never did it again. But I did know it was like really difficult. I had the handout still for it, but I would also love someone's tips and tricks.
Yeah, maybe I can make a video or something.
And we can put it on YouTube.
And then we can put it on YouTube.
Or if you want to, you
Yeah.
could do the live demo, and then we could record the
Sure.
live demo and put it on YouTube.
Bam.
And during your
Everything
demo, we
sounds
can
great.
mute everybody. And then at the end of your demo, everybody could just chit chat while they do it.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay, cool. So I think that's probably the last like official business on the list. The one thing that I think maybe we need to do, and I put it there just as a reminder for myself, but also we just had a really good conversation about talking to the teams about what actually works best for them for communicating deadlines. I was gonna say we, update the Google Calendar just based on what we've decided now, but I think instead maybe we do something, we just go to our teams and tell them. I think some things will end up on the calendar anyway, but Kay and I will be doing a different kind of calendar, I think, for Instagram anyway. And I think we'll probably make like an ugly calendar to send to design to kind of gussy it up a little bit. But yeah, I think unless anybody else has any other like business to talk about, then we can end the recording and be free, I suppose, to go eat dinner.
No, I have no extra business.
Okay, then I'm going to stop the recording